Immigration Minister Mark Miller insists on doubling down on limiting international student admissions and says it's necessary to reflect the needs of Canada's economy.
We know that the system's gotten overheated, and particularly in the area of international students and the postgraduate work permit.
So starting next year, Canada is going to temporarily limit new permits to 437,000 international students. That is a 10% decrease from the current cap of 485,000. Moshe Lander is a senior lecturer in economics at Concordia University, and he's joining us from Niagara on the Lake this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So already Ottawa had cut back on international student permits by 35%, announcing that earlier this year. Why is the government bringing in another round of restrictions now?
I mean, I think it's political at the end of the day. I can't see an economic justification for why they want to scale back the number of foreign students in the country. It's easy at this point to say that housing problems or cost of living problems are foreigners' fault because they can't vote. And so if Canadians want somebody to blame, it's easy to just pick somebody that can't fight back. I think it's rather unfortunate in this case, but I understand the politics of it at least.
Well, 2 years ago, Canada increased its immigration targets with the then Immigration Minister, Sean Fraser, saying Canada needs more people, making an economic case for immigration then. Now the Feds say cuts to even Canada's permanent resident program are imminent. What do you make of this policy reversal from the Liberals? We had a government that said, immigrants come to this country, we need you, and now they're placing limits because of housing and other reasons.
Well, it's important, Anne-Marie, that you realize, too, right? It's the same government. It's just a different minister. So it's not like the government itself has changed from one to another. So it seems then that it's a political argument, right? That now that they realize that they're in a fight and now that they realize that the Conservatives are taking a stance against immigrants, then you start to lean towards where you think the votes are going to be. 2 years ago, when we were talking about labor shortages and we need people to fill jobs, then immigrants were the easy fix, of course, because Canadians, if they wanted the jobs, would have already taken them. So again, it's an issue of which way is the wind blowing. And these days, it's hard not to see in any major city in Canada that there is a much larger number of immigrants than there were a few years ago. And I think it's rattling Canadians. I don't want to say that it's racist, but it's just that there's something there that we're not used to seeing. And so if you can scapegoat them and say, well, this is the reason, people feel better about themselves to feel that it's not something that they have done or something that's within their control for the issues that they're facing.
Yeah, and again, important to note that the economic argument was made for increasing immigration 2 years ago. So it's interesting that a different argument is the same argument is being used for reversal of priorities. So I spoke with the head of Universities Canada on Your Morning just last week, and he warned that capping international students is going to hurt everything from Canada's reputation to the university's bottom line. So how will universities adapt to this new cap? The big concern, of course, being that it raises tuition for Canadian students.
Yeah, the universities need to find the money from somewhere else then. So right now where you have foreign students that are paying essentially 3 times the tuition of Canadian students, then the math is pretty simple, that for every foreigner you put in the seat, you now need to replace them with 3 Canadians. But there's a capacity constraint. Buildings are only so large. Classrooms are only so large. So you're either going to have to go back to the provinces and say, we need more money from you. You're going to have to raise the tuition on Canadian students, or you're going to have to let the facilities fall into disrepair and maybe run off some of the expensive faculty that might be attracting students in the first place. All in all, then, it leads to a lower quality of education for students here in Canada. So it's not just damaging the reputation in the form of, well, Canadians don't accept foreigners. It's that the Canadian universities themselves aren't as good as they used to be. So there is a knock-on effect here. If you go to the province and ask them for more money, it's very likely that the province is going to say, where am I supposed to come up with it? Raise taxes, cut spending on other programs, or reallocate funds that were being used for other purposes for this. It's going to be a mess then to try and figure out how to make the finances work. The nuclear option, of course, is to let some of these universities fail, which would, of course, be a real knock to Canada's reputation.
Yeah, and of course, always important to remember, too, that these issues like housing and healthcare problems existed long before we increase or decrease immigration levels into this country. Moshe Lander, thanks for being with us this morning.
Anytime.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.